What is the difference between being understood and being seen? And what does it have to do with the oneness level that I talk so much about on this channel? Hey everyone, welcome to Holiness Connection. I'm Sonja, and today I just wanted to do a quick little video to distinguish between being seen and being understood, and what that has to do with this oneness level that I keep talking about existing, that I keep talking about practicing and cultivating. So this does get a little semantic. I think there are different ways that someone could conceive of each of these concepts. So if you're just like, well, I think of being seen as something different, or I think of being understood as something different, that's totally fine. But let me use them to distinguish what's really important here, which is what I mean is the two different things that they are. So the definitions I'm giving are what are important, not really which word you would put or phrase you would put on each definition. So for my purposes in this video, I'm going to talk about being understood as at the content level and being seen as at that oneness level. So let me just describe to you what each of those are. So being understood, that has been something that was, a core wound of mine, was feeling misunderstood for many, many years. So I definitely have a sense of this one and that longing to be understood. And it's, when you are understood, when you feel understood, there's really almost like a feeling of comfort, I would say, on it. Comfort on the journey, on your own journey as a person. Comfort that the other person gets it, gets what you've been through, gets your experience. And, it's comforting because you don't feel alone in your experience or on your journey because of that person getting it and understanding it. So this is that level of deep listening, hearing someone's story, stepping into another person's shoes for a moment, either making connections because you've had a similar experience and seeing the parallels there, or just really empathetically trying to step into someone else's shoes and feeling glimmers of what their life is like, and then they feel understood. And there's that shared sense, in the very connective ways, both individually and on the bigger level of this, is that there's that shared sense of humanity, right? There's the shared sense of what we go through that do have parallels or that are the same kinds of experiences we have as humans. And so I called it the content level. You could also call this the expression level. And, it's a beautiful part of the whole. When I'm going to be talking in a moment about the oneness level, I don't mean in any way to diminish this story or content or expression level. You could also be thinking of us in the whole as like all these different expressions of the whole individually. So, and then there, like I said, there's all these connections. There's these connections from shared experiences. So being understood is a beautiful thing. But let me contrast it now with being seen, and what I mean by that here, when I'm sort of putting that as the example for the oneness level. So being seen is a recognition of essence, of someone's being. So you can hopefully start to see already that that wouldn't have to have content around it, wouldn't have to have someone telling their individual story. You could just be with someone in their presence, or perhaps even thinking about them from a distance, but it's more contentless. It's more about just acknowledgement or sensing into their presence, their being, their essence. And that it sounds separate when I say it that way, but it really isn't separate, because at the same time, at that oneness level, you're feeling that interconnection to each other and how you're both part of the greater whole. So often this level has a feeling of homecoming to it when you're seen. And, it's kind of comes from both directions. When you're seen in that way, or when you're seeing another in that way, and perhaps you're doing it at the same time, there's a sense of homecoming. So in this case, I'm not alone because someone else has these kinds of experiences and understands it. Instead, I'm not alone because I'm feeling into how I'm never alone, because I'm always connected. I'm always home. So again, you wouldn't have to know anything else about someone when you are seeing them in this way. And, using the word seeing, I suppose I really mean an inner sight, because it's not like you would have to be looking with your eyes, of course. We're talking about being seen in terms of acknowledging, feeling into the other person's presence and essence and being, like I said, that's interconnected with your own. This often is the unitive consciousness level, if anyone's ever had those kinds of experiences. It's definitely the presence level. Like I said, it really has to do with being present for the other person, not about the content, just about the presence. So all those pieces or concepts can come into this level as well. And of course, it's possible to do both of these at the same time. You can be grounded into and present at that level and then be having a deep listening conversation at the same time. So they're not at all mutually exclusive either. And they are both beautiful ways of cultivating and being in connection. But I do believe that while we often see the importance of being understood in that level in the deep listening, that often we have not, unless we're really into contemplative practices and certain maybe mystical traditions, we don't as much see the ways in which the second one, the seeing level, the way that it exists, and the way that we can cultivate it. And why is it important to cultivate it? Beyond the fact that, like I said, it feels like homecoming. So it's a very beautiful and awe-inspiring experience. But why is it otherwise important? So one reason is that we are interconnected. So we are tapping into each other and influencing each other at all times. So when we become more conscious of that and are doing it in a more intentional way and practicing it, then that matters. It can also be important because divisions aren't always solvable at the expression level, right? They're not always solvable. And while there can be beautiful ways of trying to make, parallels or connections with each other, there's also this way in which we can see each other and be with each other that is beyond the content itself and is beyond agreement. That being level simply lets things be in a way and simply acknowledges, which sounds simple, but it's so powerful, acknowledges the oneness and the interconnection and that we are all interconnected. And so that can be very helpful in cases where there is more division, whether it's more sort of an energy of division or whether that's a specific content level, items that can't be resolved. Still cultivating the seeing level, the presence level can be a wonderful, wonderful way of things still being okay in situations where there is more division. So hopefully that was helpful as a way both of explaining more what I mean by the oneness level and its importance by contrasting it with the understanding level. And also hopefully just important in thinking about. Like I said, they're really both beautiful ways of interconnecting. And so we can cultivate both. If you're interested in this kind of content and you're not already on my Oneness Practices Substack, please go ahead and get on that. When you do, you will get a free guided meditation as well. And some of the content is parallel between Holiness Connection and Oneness Practices, but there are some extra posts that go on there, and there's more of a focus on ways to practice our oneness. Thanks everyone for watching.